Section 6. What may be transferred? Property of any kind may be transferred, except as otherwise provided by this Act or by any other law for the time being in force. A. The chance of an heir apparent succeeding to an estate, the chance of a relation obtaining a legacy on the death of a kinsman, or any other mere possibility of a like nature, cannot be transferred. B. A mere right of re-entry for breach of a condition subsequent cannot be transferred to anyone except the owner of the property affected thereby. C. An easement cannot be transferred apart from the dominant heritage. D. An interest in property restricted in its enjoyment to the owner personally cannot be transferred by him. D. A right to future maintenance, in whatsoever manner arising, secured or determined, cannot be transferred. E. A mere right to sue cannot be transferred. F. A public office cannot be transferred, nor can the salary of a public officer, whether before or after it has become payable. G. Stipends allowed to military, naval, air force and civil pensioners of government and political pensions cannot be transferred. H. No transfer can be made. 1. In so far as it is opposed to the nature of the interest affected thereby, or 2. For an unlawful object or consideration within the meaning of Section 23 of the Indian Contract Act, 1872, 9 of 1872, or 3. To a person legally disqualified to be transferee. I. Nothing in this section shall be deemed to authorize a tenant having an untransferable right of occupancy, the farmer of an estate in respect of which default has been made in paying revenue, or the lessee of an estate under the management of a court of wards, to assign his interest as such tenant, farmer or lessee.
Section 6 of the Transfer of Property Act, 1882, outlines the general principles regarding what may be transferred and specifies certain limitations on the transfer of property. Here's an elaboration of the key points in Section 6. 1. General rule. Property of any kind is capable of being transferred unless there is a specific prohibition under this Act, or any other prevailing law. 2. Exceptions. A certain contingent or speculative interests cannot be transferred. This includes the chance of an heir apparent inheriting an estate, the chance of a relative receiving a legacy upon the death of a kinsman, or any similar mere possibilities. 3. Exceptions. B. A mere right of re-entry for a breach of a condition subsequent, a condition that, if breached, allows the transferor to reclaim the property, cannot be transferred except to the owner of the property affected by the condition. 4. Exceptions. C. An easement, a right over another's land, cannot be transferred separately from the dominant heritage, the property enjoying the easement. 5. Exceptions. D. An interest in property restricted to the personal enjoyment of the owner cannot be transferred by that owner. In other words, if the enjoyment of the property is limited to the owner alone, they cannot transfer that interest. 6. Exceptions. D. The right to future maintenance, regardless of how it arises, is not transferable. This provision prohibits the transfer of the right to receive future maintenance. 7. Exceptions. E. A mere right to sue, without an accompanying interest in the subject matter of the suit, cannot be transferred. 8. Exceptions. F. Public office and the salary of a public officer, whether payable before or after it becomes due, cannot be transferred. 9. Exceptions. G. Stipends granted to military, naval, air force, and civil pensioners of the government, as well as political pensions, are not transferable. 10. Exceptions. H. No transfer can be made if it is opposed to the nature of the interest affected, for an unlawful object or consideration as per Section 23 of the Indian Contract Act, 1872, or to a person legally disqualified to be the transferee. 11. Exceptions. This subsection clarifies that nothing in Section 6 authorizes a tenant with an untransferable right of occupancy, the farmer of an estate in default of paying revenue, or the lessee of an estate under the management of a court of wards, to assign their interest. In summary, Section 6 establishes the broad principle that property of any kind is transferable unless explicitly prohibited. It also enumerates specific instances where such transfer is not allowed to safeguard against certain contingent or speculative interests, ensure the integrity of conditions subsequent, and protect against the inappropriate transfer of public offices, stipends, and other specific rights.